Okay guys, welcome back to the exercise training sessions. And in last session we discussed about import export utility. How to import data from Excel file or text file to your SQL server, or export from SQL to text files, or import and export can be done between two SQL server databases, or it can be done between two text files, or whatever the providers he has provided, the Microsoft has provided. You can make use of the same as source and destination servers. Now let's see how it looks, or what difference you will find when you use the same option from SSMS. And what is SSMS? So SSMS means SQL Server Management Studio. I told you the import and export option is available in many places. One is SSMS. Now let me connect to SQL Server Management Studio. This is the SQL Server Management Studio, and let me connect to my database. This is the server name I have provided, and credentials. The authentication I have given it as Windows, and I connected to the database. Now, if you don't find it here on right click of the database folder, you have to select any one database and right click and task. If you go to the task, we'll find two options, and that one is import data and export data. If I select this import data, what it means? So if I right click on a particular database, okay, and go into the task, and if I click on import data on this on particular database right click, that means I'm trying to import data to this particular database from outside. So the destination is set. The destination is AdventureWorks DW. Agree? Now, if I select export data, what it means? The source is set. The source is this database, and destination can be anything. So if you see import and export with that, there were two steps. One is setting the source, and another one is setting the destination. Here in this case, if you select import, you can do this import or export by right clicking on any particular database, which means you are telling the server, man, I'm importing to this database. So I don't need to set the data destination, or I'm exporting from this database, so I don't need to set the source, right? So let's see any one thing. Let me go to import database. I'm importing into the database. That means you can see that, so it is asking for source. What is the source from where you want to pull the data? So let me select, though I don't have Excel file now, let me select flat file source to which I have moved the data. It is taking time. I selected flat file, so okay. The file which has data is in my desktop, sales data. You can see it has something around 1,20,000 records, right? Let me select this, or even this one. Both will do the job. Let me go for this one. And column names on the first row. And let me see what all the columns it has. It has all these columns. And you can see, you remember, right? I have given double quotes, so I don't want to get those one. So let me set it as, let me set the double quotes in text qualifier so that it will be removed automatically. The remaining thing is fine. The source is set, and the destination, if you see, the destination is by default selected. This is the SQL server, this is the server. I connected to the server using Windows authentication, and this is the database on which I have right clicked and selected the option import data. Click on next. Now you have to select what database you want to. Actually, we created this database table in last session when we were importing data from a flat file source to the SQL server. So if you click on edit mappings, you will not find the option create destination table. Why? Because the table already exists. So two options are, one is delete rows in the destination table and then load, or append rows to the destination table. If there is already rows available in the database table, then just append it. Okay. And let me go with the second one. Let me append the data. Click on next, and I don't want to save this package. Click on next, and this is the summary, and click on finish. It will read the data and it will load into the destination whatever we have set, right? So this is the difference between import and export in SSMS and in the folder Microsoft SQL Server 2018 all programs. Now quickly let us check the export tool. So exporting means exporting the data from see, the source is set here automatically. Why? Because I'm exporting. I selected option on right clicking of a database and the option is export data. So the source is set. Now the destination I need to set this. So let me select flat file which is already there and I'm gonna append the data or delete and insert the data. Let me try this. I'm selecting this flat file. Okay. Column names on the first data row, and from one or more tables, let me select the database table that is sales data, right, which we have created. Yeah, here it is, sales data. Row delimiter, let it be new line, and column delimiter, let it be comma. And append rows is the definition we have, so I want to delete the rows and add it fresh. Run the package immediately and click on finish. It has to pull the data. It has something around 4 lakh, I mean double to the 2,41,584 records, and everything is moved into the destination with comma separator. Let's see that to confirm. You can see everything is comma separator and the same data, whatever it is there, it is going into the destination table. Now you have found, right, a little difference between import export wizard in two different places. There is one more place where you can find the same option. The third place is in BITS environment. BITS means, what is the full form of BITS? Business Intelligence Development Studio. Now let me open that and see where that option will be available. So you will find the BITS option, SQL Server Business Intelligence Development Studio, in the same folder where you have seen this import export data utility. So go and open the BITS environment. First time it will take some time to load the BITS environment, and after that it will not take that much time. So we need to discuss about a few options, few objects of this Business Intelligence Development Studio. Actually, this is the framework Microsoft has provided to design SSIS, SSAs, and SSRS projects. This is nothing new. This is just like Visual Studio, which you will use for creating .NET projects. The same thing with little bit of extra touches, okay, for business intelligence development projects. Now let's see where you will find this option. So to start a new project, first you need to start a new project. Okay, to start a new project, you have to go to File, New Project. If you select this, it will open all the business intelligence projects. These are the business intelligence projects, the one which you are going to learn in your training sessions. So the first two, if you see, 1 and 2 are purely for analysis services, that is SQL Server analysis services. 3 and 4 is for integration services. 5, 6, 7 is for reporting services. Now let me take integration services project. I'll name it as import, export, check. I'm giving some dummy name. Please give proper names while giving project names. It should give some meaning what the project contains, what is the base or what is the functionality involved in the project. Okay. See, this location is the location where the solution file will be created. The solution or the project file will be created. That means you are creating a new project. The project should be created somewhere, right? So this is the path. Let me set it to desktop so that it will be easy to access. I'm selecting it to desktop, and this is the solution name. Let me click on OK. Now you can see a solution is created called IE check. In that, the project is created. So this is all the project related files will be added to this. If I add 10 project related files to the project, all those stuff will be added to that. I'll show you that. Now this is the BITS environment. We're gonna discuss a little bit about Solution Explorer, Properties Window, and Connection Manager, and so on, but not now. Before that, let's see where that import and export wizard available here in this bits environment. If you see in project, you can find SSIS import and export wizard. Can you see, is there any difference between the import and export wizard, whatever you have used in Microsoft SQL Server folder? The same thing. But the only difference is you will find more sources. That's the only difference. No, you have same sources. So let me do one thing. Let me create an export path here. Exporting to SQL Server. Sorry, exporting to Flatpak. So the server name I have to give. Let me give it as localhost. Windows authentication will work fine. Let me go for AdventureWorks DW where I have data in a file. And destination, let me set it to flat file or Excel file. I need to create one now. Sales data. Okay. First row has columns, fine. The table. And this is the list of tables. Which table you want to move. Let me select sales data, edit mappings. It says create a destination table, fine. Click on next. All these things are warnings, okay, fine. Will it run fine or not? Can you go for a guess? I've just created an export utility, exporting to an Excel. Will it run fine? There was no issue, only warnings were showing. What do you call? The warnings were just because of the data types. SQL Server data types, most of the data types are not so compatible with the Excel. So that is why the warnings were coming. Now it is successful. Let me go here where I've created the Excel file. The issue we got when we run the package, it threw error, right? That is because the provider, the Excel, see, the Excel that I have in my machine is 2007 version, and if I try to give that, and if I click on next, you can see it's throwing an error message or warning message saying that this provider is not registered in my local machine. So this provider is required to connect to the versions of Excel 2007. So that was the problem. But that is why I have given 97 to 2003 versions and clicked on next. 1 second. Now it's not allowing even this one. This is not correct, pointing to the correct. So that is why I continued creating, and it was this is the problem with the jet. Sorry, this is the okay, this is creating problem, the Excel. So what I will do is I'll go for another destination. Just here I'm trying to show you what's the difference between import export wizard here and SSMS. So let me go for another destination. Anyhow, we will be working on Excel sources. There we can discuss a lot about providers and all, how to connect using to the Excel sheets or Excel workbooks of versions before prior to 2003 release and post to 2003 releases. Now let me select a simple one. I'll go for flat file destination just to show you an example. What's the difference between here and there? And let me go with this one. The other one size is growing like anything, so let me go with this. Click on next, and I'm selecting the table. The table is sales data. There it is. Click on next. Before going to that, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna delete the destination rows and then I'm gonna append it. Click on next, and if I click on finish, you can see the package will be created. The package name is taken as package 2 and one control flow item. In that, one data flow task is there. Don't worry what is this control from data flow. We are going to discuss in a couple of minutes. So in that, the details of the export, whatever we have done is set. So this is the source from where it is going to get. The source, whatever I have defined. If you go and see here, defined related to the source will be here. So you can see this is OLEDB connection, and the data will be coming from sales data table, and these are all the columns that I have picked. And the next one is destination. If you select destination, here this is the flat file destination, which means connecting to flat file, and override the data in the flat file is what I have checked. So delete and insert the data, and mappings, the source and destination column mappings. This is the page. So if you see, it is little bit different. It is pictorial representation, right? It is taking task and it is showing pictorial representation, whereas the earlier one, it is just next, 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 and it's a package format. Cell for running immediately. Now, if you execute this, it will work fine. I mean, flat file has no issue, right? So it is reading the data and moving to the destination, and you can use it again and again. Now I'm rerunning it, and again I'm rerunning it. So you can use it again and you can reuse it. And the second advantage is you can extend the function. You can extend the functionality. That means instead of simply pulling the data and pushing it into the destination, you can add some functionality in the middle, like transforming the data. That is the advantage of using this SSIS import and export here. It makes our work a little bit easy. Now, what I'm going to do here is, I'm going to stop this package, and in the destination, instead of override data in the file, I'm unchecking it. So that means every time whenever I execute this, it has to write data to the file. Let's see whether it works or not. First time, if you see the file, the size is 53.5 MB. Now let me rerun it. And you can see the size has become 80.2. And let me rerun it again. So the size will be, so if you imagine if you trigger, if you configure this package to run for every 1 minute for 1 year, how much size it will be, the file size? It will grow like anything, and your hard disk will get over, and it will say there is no space to write more data after a few hours or years. So like that, if you want to append the data, you can append it. See, this is the package what you have. See, this is the import and export utility you use in bits environment. The advantage is you can see the package, whatever the work you have done as part of import and export utility, and you can extend the functionality. Instead of directly copying the same data, whatever you are getting, you can move. That's the major advantage. Now, we use the terminology like packages and bits so many times. Let's see what is the bits and what is the use and what are the different objects available in the bits. Now, from here onwards, we are not going to discuss about import and export. That is only one piece of it, a piece that needs to be known. You need to know before going into the SSIS concepts. That's why I have explained a little about the import export utility. Now, let's start with SSIS. Why you have to go for SSIS when we have import and export utility? The job of SSIS is to move data from one source or multiple sources to a destination. You can do it using import and export utility, and then why you need an SSIS packages or bits projects, SSIS projects, why you need this? As you guys said, the major reason is for transforming the data. And also you can control the workflow, and so many other advantages is there compared to import and export. Import and export is just like the basic model or the base simplest one, what you can use to move the data from one source to another, from a source to destination. But SSIS is not like that. SSIS is an ocean. You can play with the data. You can while before moving, okay, and you can do so much of other stuff apart from moving the data. So all those stuff will be available in control flow. You can see all these items. There are so many toolbox items. You need to know about each and every toolbox item. You need to have an idea about what a particular toolbox item is meant for. Okay. Now let's see what is this. BITS means Business Intelligence Development Studio, and the first thing you need to know is the Solution Explorer. If you click on this button, the Solution Explorer opens. So let's say if this is closed, if you click on this button, the Solution Explorer opens. The Solution Explorer will have all the files or all the projects and its files. Now, if you see, this is the Solution Explorer and this is the project. Project name is IE Check. It has these files and folders. You can add one more project to this or two more projects. You can add a number of projects to this. Same solution. So a solution is nothing but a container which holds projects. So let's say this is your solution. This will have projects like this. And each project will have files related to the project. This is how the structure will be. Okay. Now the second item that we need to know here is properties window. If you click on this one, the properties window opens. You can see this is the properties window. It shows the properties of the item that is highlighted. For example, now if I select here, these particular package properties are showing. If I select here, it will show data flow properties. If I select here, not there. If I go to the data flow and if I select this one, it is showing the properties. If I go to Package Explorer, it will give me the package. If I click on variables here, it will give me the variable properties. Okay, just like that. Wherever the focus is, it will give me the properties of that particular object or item that the focus is on. So then you can set the properties for that particular. Let's say I'm in control flow and if I click on this package, here I'm getting all the properties related to the package and I can modify it if I feel like modifying or if I feel like setting some property for at package level. Okay, this is properties window and this is Solution Explorer. And the third thing is package. I told so many times that I use the word package so many times. Now what is package here? So package is nothing but a complete unit of work. Let's say, 1 second, let me erase the drawing. So this is one package. This package will have all the functionality or one unit of work. Not only one data flow, it can have some script component or sequence container or loop container. It can have all this stuff. This is the functionality. This is the workflow. How it has to flow. The complete unit of work, we call it as package. It is a container which will have so many tasks which are related to each other. Let's say it will be related like this. We call this one as package. Okay. And the second thing is control flow. The control flow is nothing but which says about the workflow of the project. What needs to be done first and what needs to be done second. Okay. The example, a detailed expression if you want, let me delete this. Let's say I have 5 tables. Okay. This control flow, what data flow will do is each data flow will have the functionality to load one table. Remember, each data flow will have the functionality to load a destination table. But this control flow will controls the workflow. Workflow means what table needs to be loaded first and what needs to be loaded second. That's the workflow. If I have 5 tables and the table 1 needs to be loaded first and table 3 needs to be loaded second, then only the data will come properly. In that case, first and then this one should go and then this one should go from here to here and here. So like this, we will configure. So this is the workflow. We call this one as workflow. And I will tell you an example in an Excel why we need to have this kind of workflows. Let me take an Excel. So while loading the data, first what you will do is you will load dimension table or master tables. And then you will go for transaction tables. Okay, this is how we load the data. First master tables will be loaded and then the transaction tables. I hope everyone knows the difference between master tables and the transaction tables. If anyone don't know, please let me know. So generally the master tables will have all the master information about the business, whereas the transaction table will have all the transactions. Let's say for banking, the customer table is a master table, whereas ATM withdrawal or withdrawals is a transaction. So always first master tables needs to be loaded. Though, so in that case, we have to configure. First, it has to go for master table 1, then master table 2, then master table 3, then master table 4, and then finally go for fact table. So the sequencing, the workflow will be given in such a way that if any of these tables is having dependency on this, then first this will be loaded. And if any of these tables is dependent on this one, this data, then second it will be. So like that it will go. If these first 4 tables are not related or not dependent on any other, so then you can give any sequence. But finally, they'll give the fact table. This is how, and when we create a project using this data flows, then you will come to know better, much about it. So this control flow will control the workflow of the project. Okay, how the workflow has to be done, like which task has to be done first, which task has to be executed first, and then which task, followed by which task, and so on. If you have some file system task, or let me tell you one example, email task. There is one task called send email. So when the email will be sent, once once all the records are moved to the destination. So this should be the last one, right? So if you don't have this workflow, then if this one executes first, will it make any sense? So this control flow will make sure that the workflow is properly set and executed. And the third one that you need to know is data flow. The data flow will have the functionality of one source to destination load. It will pull the data from the sources and move it to the destination. So data flow is nothing but ETL. It will have sources. You can see the first group is sources. Sources means nothing but we extract from sources. So for extraction purpose, we need sources, and these sources will be used for extraction. And data flow transformation. This complete set is used for transforming the data before moving to the destination. And data flow destination is used to load the data to the destination. So these three is nothing but ETL, and hence data flow is nothing but it says how the data will be flowed and what transformations need to be applied while flowing the data from source to the destination. Yeah, but here if you observe, we have added 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 data flows, but still it is showing only one data flow tab because you have different options here. If you want to write functionality for the data flow task 2, you can select that. So the data flow task 2 is currently empty. You can write the functionality here. So whatever the functionality you implement here will be executed when it executes this data flow 2. So if I have 10 data flow tasks, I'll not get 10 different tabs like data flow 1, data flow 2, data flow 3. I won't get like that. It will be only one tab. In that, the options will be there to select. Okay, like this, the options will be there, and you can write the functionality for each and every data flow task. And the next thing is connection managers. As you all know, the SSIS packages or even import and export packages are purely dependent on connections. It needs to have source connection and also a destination connection. We have two connection types. One is source and another one is destination. Here, this is the place where you will go for connection managers. Source connection and destination connection will be defined here. If I right click here, you can see new OLEDB connection. I told you OLEDB is very advanced and it can connect to almost any kind of relational database like SQL, Oracle, Teradata, MySQL, MS Access, and so on. Flat file connection, ADO.NET connection, analysis services connection. You have so many connections. Apart from that, you can see an option called new connection. Here you can see it's listing even more. You can connect to caching. You can connect to Excel. You can connect to a file. You can connect to a flat file. You can connect to FTP, file transfer protocol. And you can connect to HTTP. You can connect to MSMQ. There are so many types of providers, but in real time, hardly you'll be using Excel and flat file or files and OLEDB, and that's it. We'll be using only these stuff: OLEDB, Excel, flat file, and flat files. That's it. And remaining things is just like it depends on the projects. Very rare cases. Once in 1,000 projects, there may be requirement like go and connect to MSMQ, messaging queue, or connect to cache, connect to ADO.NET. Very rare cases. So this is the connection manager pane where you will define all the connections that are required for the project. Or if you define any connection in the data flow here, let's say let me connect to the OLEDB source, and let me create a connection, new connection. I'll select the database AdventureWorks. I'm creating a new connection. Let's say AdventureWorks DW. And if I click on OK, you can see one data source connection is created. Okay, one connection in connection manager, one new connection is created. Earlier it was only 3, now it is 4. So wherever you create any connection in this whole package, okay, it will create one. It will it will add it to the connection manager. Let's say the total package is having 100 different connections, then all those 100 will be listed here. So that is about the connection manager space. And the next thing is variables. You will be using variables to, what is meant by variable? The one which holds and whose value will be changing throughout the execution of the project. You can create variables like by simply right clicking and selecting variables option here. To select this, it will show the variables pane here. You can see the variables option, right? This is where you can create variables, and the tools. Okay, so here if you want to create or add a new variable, you can select this button. You can see add variable. If you click on this, a new variable will be added, and you can give the name like whatever the name you want. Just file name. This is the name I'm giving. And the scope is very important. Scope means what is the scope that this variable is valid. If I set it to package scope, I created a variable at package scope. That means this variable can be used anywhere in this package. Okay, anywhere in this package. And what is the data type? It has 30 int 32 int 64 object. Object means it can have any kind of data, arrays, tables, strings, integer, anything can be called, but it is very what I can say, it occupies more memory. So object, S byte, single, and string, Unicode integer 32 and Unicode integer 64, byte, char, boolean, datetime, db null, double, and so on. You have all these kind of data types. And the value field will say what is the default value you want to set. If you want to set some default value to the integer, to the variable, you can set that. Now this variable I have defined at the package scope. So whatever object I click in the package, it will be available. Now let me create a variable, okay, at data flow task scope. Now if I select here, I selected this data flow task, and I'm clicking on add variable. Now you can see the scope is set to the data flow. Whatever the data flow, where I set the focus, that I have created. The variable is created for that particular scope. Let me give it as test, and let me set it to string, and let me set some dummy value, testing. This is the default value, or you can leave it blank. It depends on your requirement. Now I set this variable on this particular scope. That's why it is showing. When I click another one, it won't show. Why? Because it is not allowed. It is not having the scope of data flow task 1. It is having the scope of only data flow task. That's why only when I click here, I'm able to see that. This is called scope. And if you go for a container, there will be some containers like for loop, for each loop, and so on. Okay, sequence and so on. And if you have something like a data flow inside the container, you can have a task inside the containers, and there will be one separate session for these containers. It is very important one. Now if I create a variable at container level, let's say I'm creating, see, for loop container level, I'm creating a variable. Let's say this is the variable name. Then this variable will be available for all the tasks inside the container. Now this is the this is the task which is available inside the container. So the variable whatever I have created with the scope of the container is available here. Okay. If you create a package level, it will be available throughout the package. If you create at a particular task level, it will be available only at that particular task level. Like this data flow task, you can see only file name will come, sorry, test will come only for the data flow, but not for the remaining. And if you create at a container level, that variable will be available to all the tasks that are present inside the container. This is the container level variable, whatever I created, EF, EW, EW, and the same will be available even for the data flow tag. This is about the variable scope, which is very important. While defining the variables, you need to keep an eye on setting the scope properly. Now we have one more tab that we need to discuss before starting our exercise concepts, that is event handlers. These event handlers will help to create a workflow on some event. What is meant by event? When this is executed, that is called execution event. When this is executed, this is called execution event. When this is failed, that is called failed event. Event means what is it? The output or outcome, or button click is an event, or mouse over is an event in SQL, in .NET, all those kind. So if you want to have some functionality on some event, then you can use this event handlers. You can see type of events that are on error, on post validate, on post execute, on post pre execute, on pre validate, on progress. All these are different events of just one task, that is data flow task 3. In the same way, you will have different events at package level. If I select package, these are the different events. And if you go for send mail task, you will have different set of events for this one. So what you can do is, if this task fails, let's say this is a data flow task fails, you need to do some functionality. So that functionality can be written in your event handler under data flow task on error or fail, something like that. There will be so many events which you can make use of. If you get any warning on the task, you can use this warning event. If you get any task fail, then you can select this and you can click here. That means it will open a page or a control flow kind of option to write an extra functionality. So this really helps us in doing some extra task. Or I'll tell you an example. If this one fails, then that needs to be logged. Or if any task fails, that needs to be logged. Logged means stored in the database, like, okay, that particular time the task failed and this particular user ran the package and so on, that kind of information. So you can have all that kind of information in the event handlers. And this package explorer will show you what are available in your package. In this package, I have all these variables. All these are system variables. If it has the suffix system, then it is system variable. And if it is having user, that is called user variable, the one which you added or I created, right? The user created. So those variables are called user variables, and all the remaining variables, there will be default system variables which you can make use of. And you can see at package level there is only one variable, that is file name. And let's go to the executables. I think for data flow task or control flow. Control flow, we have variables defined, right? File name is there and EF, EW is there. And in that we have one more task executable, that is data flow. And this guy has one more extra variable defined. You can see that variable here, test. So this package explorer will give you the complete package where the variable is defined and what are all the tasks that are available that is added to your package, the complete package information, a kind of index page you will find right in the books. So something like that. It will make our work easy to go to the particular item, or where, if you want to find out where a particular variable is different, or what a particular task is having. Like if you go to any executable like data flow task, you can easily find out, okay, this has these components, one destination and one source is there, and variables, only system variables and file name variable is accessible from here. So it will give you a clear picture about that particular task. And the next thing we need to know is, if you go to the Project Solution Explorer, the data sources. What is this data sources? If you need to connect to a particular source again and again, you can create it as data source and you can refer it in the connection managers. I'll show you how to create a data source and data source view and what is the use of these two. Data source is nothing but a physical connection between the package or between the solution to the data store. That means database. Now I'm creating a connection. I've created a data source. This data source connects to the database AdventureWorks DW. Using this data source, I can create a data source view. Data source view is nothing but if this database is having hundreds of tables. In real, you don't need to create data source, but I'll tell you where you need to create these data sources. But let's discuss about data source view. Data source view is nothing but subset of tables. If you have 100 tables in your data source, you can filter only. Now let me go to next, and you can see it will list all the tables that are present in the database. But if I don't want all the tables, and if I want only few tables, let's say fact internet sales I want, and I want all the related tables to this, I can select that and click on next, and if I click on finish, it creates a subset of the tables. So only the tables that I have selected will be added to this data source view. This data source view will be created based on some data source. Actually, these two things, data source and data source view, are part of SSAS, not SSIS earlier. They started, initially it was part of SQL Server Analysis Services. Now they added the same feature to the integration services also. Now what is the advantage of these data sources and data source views is, one thing, you can filter out what are all the tables that you need for your analysis, for your integration services package. For example, if you have 200 tables or 300 tables, and if you need only 4 to 5 for your integration services project, then you can create a data source view, and you can refer this data source view in your package connection manager. Now here, if I go to this new connection from data source, this is the data source that I have created. Click on OK. That's it. And AdventureWorks DW data source connection is created, and I can make use of the same in my application. If you see here, it is showing AdventureWorks DW also, the connection which I have taken, and this is the data source view, right? This is the data source I have created. In that, I have created a data. For that, I have created a data source view. If I click on OK, it will show only the tables and the views whatever I have added to the data source view. You can see only 6 to 7 are showing what is part of the data source view. That's the only advantage. Apart from that, I don't see any advantage. And before ending this, before closing the session, let's discuss a little bit about precedence constraints. What is meant by precedence constraints? If you see here, I have given arrow mark, right? The green one from here to here. This is called precedence. What tasks need to be executed first, and what needs to be executed after that, and what needs to be executed after that, and so on. This is the precedence constraints tells the workflow, how the work has to flow in the control flow page. Now, if you see here, as per this, it has to start with this. I have only one. First data flow task should be executed, and then data flow task 4 should be executed, and then send mail task. Let me delete this. Let me have only 2. So now the precedence, I've set it like this. Data flow task to data flow task 3 to 4. So this should occur in this fashion. Now it has options. Before going to the options, you can set if it is green color line. Okay, if it is green color line, that means if this is successful, then only it will go here. If you want to go to this to any particular task, let's say send mail task, on failure of the first task, then you have to set like this. Drag and drop to this one, right click and failure. So if it is successfully finished the first task, then it will go to data flow task, and if it is failed, then it will go to the send mail task. Understood, right? How to set the condition where it has to go. Now there is one more option. I don't care whether it is successful or failed. If it is just completed means it can be either successful or failed. So go to this one. So set this, right click on completion. Now it will be in blue color. Blue color means if the first task 1 is completed, then blindly it will go to the next one. It won't care whether it is successfully completed or failed. Okay, these are the 3 different constraints you can check while setting the precedence constraints. And the one which from where the precedence constraint starts, we call it as precedence executable, and this is called constraint executable. This is getting input. This is based on this, whether it is successful or not. If it is successful, then it will come here. If it is failed, it will go here. If it is completed, either with success or failure, it will go here. It is not Kranti. It won't. It is not like that. It's not always that data flow task 4 will go. Always execute SQL task will come. I mean, it will come to execute SQL task. Why? Because it is on completion. If it is only successful, then it will come here. If it is failed, it will come here. But both the cases, it will go to execute SQL task. Okay. It has some properties. If you right click and if you click on edit, you can set some properties. Precedence constraint properties. You can set some condition check, like when it has to go. Apart from the success failure, you can have different condition checks. For example, if you go here, this is set to constraint, so success failure or something like that. If you set it to expression, then you need to write an expression like test is equal to test, something like this. 1 second, it should be in double quotes. Okay, this is a dummy example I have given. So if you write any expression and this expression is evaluated to true, that means test is equal to test is true, right? It will come here. Or if you give test is equal to test 1, this will evaluate to false, so it won't go. Okay. You can set either on constraint or on expression or on both or on any one. If you set it to the 4th one, either it is successful or test is equal to test 1, it will be executed. Okay. I'll tell you one better example. Date part is a function which gives you part of the day. Is equal to 7. That means if the month is equal to 7, it will give you month. The first expression, this guy will give me month. If this month is equal to 7, then it will be executed. If the month is not equal to 7, it will not be executed. That is the expression part. If you give expression or constraint, either this is true or this is true, it will be executed. If you give expression and constraint, it should be successful. That means this should be successful, as well as month should be 7. So this should be true and this should be true. This is just like and or combinations here. There are 2 different ways you can set the precedence constraint. The first one is constraint, if it is successful, failure, or something like that. And second thing is based on expression, like we can define some expression like month is equal to 7 or month is equal to 6 or day is equal to Thursday or day is equal to Sunday, something like that. So it will be either and or the third and fourth option. If it is and, then both should be evaluated to true, and if it is or, either one, if it is evaluated to true, then it will take you to the next task. Okay, this is basics about the precedence constraints, and from here onwards, whenever you define a package, whenever you create a package, and you will be using these precedence constraints again and again and again. Very, very frequently used one, and you will get complete knowledge when we start working on these control flow items. Now, from next session onwards, what I'm going to do here is I'm going to take one by one, like for loop container, for each loop container, sequence container, actors, task, and so on. I'll take all the control flow items first, and I will explain all the control flow items one by one, and then we will go to the data flow items. I will discuss about data flow items, and finally we will discuss about the deployment and maintaining the packages, how to deploy the packages and how to maintain the packages. While discussing about each and every item, we will be discussing about the objects whatever we have discussed today, like control flow, data flow, event handlers, these precedence constraints, connection managers, and so on. Whatever we have discussed, everything will be coming in our daily sessions, daily discussions. So I've given just a heads up. Okay, this is what, and this is used for this particular purpose. That's it. A little information about it. Don't worry that if you don't understand what is precedence constraints and so on, we'll be spending a lot of time on the same concepts. And one more thing, people will be asking like, why don't you explain real-time scenarios, examples, and so on. So this exercise is main on understanding what a task is meant for. If you understand all the tasks, whatever the tasks that are available here, if you know what task is meant for what, then it's all in your hands to make use of all the tasks and design a proper package. So first thing you need to know is get good knowledge on all the tasks, and then set a requirement on your own and try to work on that. That is the way you have to gain. You can gain real-time experience, close to real-time experience. Okay, I'll try to give you complete knowledge on all the tasks, and that's it for today's session, and we'll be discussing about the control flow items from tomorrow's session, and it will take a minimum of 1 week to discuss about all the control flow items. And I repeat, I suggest you guys to go through the video. For the first 10 sessions, you need to go through the videos again and again. You need to have the complete brief of the items that we discuss on first 10 sessions. Why? Because that is very, very important. After that, you will be used to the terminology, and you will feel easy when I am explaining. After 10 sessions, if I am at data flow task or something like that, and at that moment, if I use control flow, connection managers, precedence constraints, whatever the terminology, you will feel comfortable. So that is why the first 10 sessions you need to work hard, not only for this exercise, for any tool or any language that you are learning. That's it, guys, and practice it. And if you have any questions, you can ping me, and catch you tomorrow, same time. Thank you, guys.